It comes with a flash, because it's a package from China. Let's go. Yeah, it's the time again for the package from China, where we're going to be testing out all kinds of weird products. So this is going to be in gaming console, but also have the option for photo mode. So you can put in pretty pictures and play video games. And that is actually what it is, a duo device. And you know, when it comes to duo devices, you never know what you're getting when it comes to the overall gaming experience. So it comes with a certain angle and a 10-inch display. But what kind of display? It's going to be IPS, it's going to be like super glossy. Let's find out. Let's see what are we getting. So when it comes to these products from China, you know, it's always like a hit or miss. I do find sometimes very interesting products, but you know, it can be a lot of shenanigans. So we're starting off with, yeah, the PlayStation, the fake PlayStation 2 controllers wirelessly. So the overall controller feel, man, this controller feels absolutely cheap. It's not like the cheapest model, but it's also not like the best one out there. I'm glad that most game boxes are moving away from these things, because they are like really sensitive to when it comes to having problems, connectivity, but also when it comes to, let's say, just the raw quality, you know, that they just break down. I did read in the comments some people had some issues with these things. The power supply is not here, because I'm guessing they were going to be needing just a 5-volt adapter. Let's see if this is also included. Let's see how it is when it comes to the device itself. So indeed, we're getting a very glossy screen, but you know, is this going something to do with the screen protector? Oh, whatever. So the point is that like the overall design is quite nice. I must say it is a very nice slim version. It's not like this clunky device that we've seen before. So in here we're finding all of the ports, and you know, the first thing I wanted to check out, what kind of SD card are we going to be using? Oh man, they're using a 64GB with no brand, and these things are very sensitive to corruption, because that happens a lot. I think it was one guy who actually said like, I'm using my device for years now, so I think that's a freaking miracle. But in overall, yeah, you know, it's absolutely a shenanigan situation with a lot of problems. You even have the option to just hang it and just to play the games this way. So in here we're having the stand that they were talking about on the box. So we can just click this thing in here, and that's it, like a super simple solution. I must say the overall angle is quite nice. So if you just want to put some photos on, that's it's just going to be a very cool overall solution. On and off switch is there, but let's do a quick overview of all of the connections. We're having the micro SD card in, or actually the SD card, because we're using an adapter. Headphone jack in, USB only one. So we're going to be using a hub if you want to have multiple controller setup. We're having a USB-C connection, and over here in the corner we're finding the barrel jack mini. Model the RG39, and wasn't like the same model on the box. However, what we're getting is actually a DC or a power supply, 5 volts, 2 amps. So that's what we're going to be using today. The Piece 10 or something portable screen gaming console. So it will stay on here for quite a long time when it comes to the logo, but then it's going to be booting up into, yep, EmuElec. Yeah, that's what's running on, and it's loaded up really quickly. But when it comes to the overall audio quality, I must say that I'm really surprised how good this actually sounds. So let's peel off this piece of, I think this is the tape. Let's remove that. But the weird thing is, like, I've been messing with the on and off switch, so we can just put it in standby. Fairly easy. Okay, so that's actually how it works. So that's great, and you can actually see that it will connect the twin USB stick every single time. Okay, so another thing I wanted to do, what happens if you're going to be removing this part. I'm going to be plugging this in, because turning it off was kind of a little bit of a nightmare. But here we're going to be having the option for the other option, the Frameo, and it actually showcases, I'm guessing, just the pictures that you added to the SD card normally. But let's see what's going on. Let's see what it's actually going to be booting up. You see some by bleeding over here at the side. I did hear sound. What did you just boot up into Android? Welcome. Never disconnect power when Frameo is running. Oh, I think I just did that. But there was no touchscreen, if you wonder. So yeah, that's it. The weird thing is like, always use the power on button to turn off your Frameo. Yeah, okay, it's all fun and game. And it gives me the option to wait. But what will happen now? There we go. But I do wonder, how can I connect? Do I need to use the joystick? Because there's no remote when it comes to the Android part or this particular thing. Because we don't. We do have a touchscreen. They didn't say it on the book. Project name, portable screen, blah. PS10. But there was nothing on there for saying that this thing actually had like touchscreen. That's cool. So let's go on. Let's go next. Oh, we can connect to Wi-Fi, so we can actually do that. Ah, but we need to... I don't want to use that. Go away. And restore from backup. What? Restore from backup. Already have backup the existing Frameo frame. Are you able to restore your photos and settings? Okay, so no, set up as a new one. Oh, we need to fill in the name. Yeah. Frame location. The Matrix. Yeah. Alright, there we go. Let's guide. The first step for the new frame, add some friends who can send you photos. Okay, that's kind of cool. So this is the generation code. Once you've pressed the friend icon, you can see the code. Okay, so we can just send it to other people. Alright, so that's kind of cool of an idea. So people can just send you pictures. You connect this to the internet. You can do some really freaky shit with it. If you want to prank your friend, you can send like weird pictures like a gorilla or something. So you can add friends, you have settings. Let's see what's going on. So this is actually running in the Matrix, but actually you can just mess around with the settings, manage photos. You have the display brightness can be adjusted over here. Slideshow, you have the timer and everything that you can set up. And video playback mode, so that is kind of cool. We have Wi-Fi again, notification, backup restore, help, and about. See what there's any information about. Nothing really fancy going on over here. However, when it comes to this, there is a lot of cool stuff. We even have weather location, temperature unit. So this thing is quite extended when it comes to that kind of settings. But so far, the frame is offline. We don't connect it to the... Yeah, we didn't connect it to the internet. I think I need to do that. But the overall idea of this is kind of cool. So we can just use it like that, or use it like game console if you have like a retro gaming party. But let's take a close look at the software part of the games itself, because I think this is a very cool, unique feature. So, but how actually good does it run? So let's zoom in, let's have some fun, let's do some captures, and we don't have HDMI out support, so I'm thinking we're going to be using it like this. How about the main menu? What can we expect from this? So first of all, let's take a close look at something else. System settings. What can we mess around with? We can change out all kinds of things. And I think I'm happy that they didn't like lock it up. However, if you're going to be looking at it, it's hitting 70 Celsius. So this thing is getting really hot when it comes to that. So nevertheless, we're going to be opening up later on to see what's going on when it comes to the cooling. So we do have the emulate G31. So I'm guessing it's going to be like an X3 chipset on the inside, but there's nothing much going on because the CPU model isn't really recognized by the system. But the overall quality of the display is not bad at all. So the downside is actually that we do have ourselves some crazy, like say, reflection of the front screen. And even if you're going to be, I think, removing the screen protector, not going to be having a better overall solution. But let's get into the gameplay, because this is going to be awesome. But the overall performance of this device is just great, but I was not expecting any problems when it comes to the 8-bit, 16-bit. The unfortunate part is that we don't have a lot of stuff going on when it comes for just actually the, let's say, different kind of platforms. I think this thing can actually play so much more. So then I think it's going to be absolutely a missed opportunity. What we can actually do is mess around with it to see if we can even add more stuff to it. But so far, let's try another game and let's see how it is with the overall performance. So far, everything has been nicely added, like the pictures, that seems to be working all fine. But there is so much reflection, so I'm going to be just capturing the stuff like this. With the simple reason, because otherwise you're going to be seeing like reflection from everything over here. So that makes it really difficult to actually see what's going on. But so far it's quite unfortunate they didn't implement any bezels or anything, like even putting it in 4:3 aspect ratio, but we can always like mess around with that in the menu, because we do have the freedom to do whatever we want to when it comes to that kind of settings. But if you wonder, can we actually make a quick load, quick save? We can actually do that. I don't know what's going on over here. Okay, so we can switch with the PC Engine with the L2 between 6 and 2 button, but that's not going to be working great because you can see like it's not optimized for that. How about like quick load? Yep, we can actually make those. So we can make quick load, quick save by pressing select L1 for loading and the R1 for saving. And let's see, let's get into the freaking annoying mode. So let's say we're going to be making a save over here. We're going to be walking a little bit further, making a load. That works absolutely instantly. And select the start will bring you back to the main menu itself. We also have the option for some Famicom 8-bit system, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Let's check it out. Let's see if they messed something up. Is the screen tearing? They did implement the turbo button, so that's awesome. So next up, the game gear. Let's hold the A button and indeed we can get into the advanced game option. So we can choose the different emulator. Native resolution can be changed out, the aspect ratio. So let's see what's going on. So we're having square pixel 101. But let's say we're going to be putting it on 4:3 or something like that. Let's see, there we go. We can mess around with that. Shaders, now we can do some pretty cool stuff. I don't know if it's going to be enabling automatically or need to mess around with, let's say, core provided. See, we can mess around with the aspect ratio here. Sometimes I do have like the struggle that it doesn't really work. It's still forced to the 16:9. But let's see if it's going to booting up. Okay. Oh yeah, you can actually see now we do have like the 4:3 aspect ratio. So that is absolutely awesome. So that seems to be working fine. And that's the thing I wanted to showcase, that we can actually mess around with it. Didn't see any bezels with this particular emulator, but it doesn't matter. So let's get into some old school Sonic Gales. Oh, I've played this game so much. I think this is still my favorite Sonic game on the Sega Game Gear. Let me know in the comments what kind of games do you personally prefer to play when it comes to the Sonic titles. But so far, great emulation, no problem whatsoever. I was not expecting any weird thing going on because you can run this game on a freaking potato nowadays. Rocket mode! Woohoo! And double rocket mode. Ah! Next up, let's move into the Sega Genesis. Wow, did mess up this part. Superpower! This is personally my favorite Shinobi game when it comes to the Sega Genesis. The other one was also great, but I just love the overall vibe of this game. Just the running, the slicing, with the samurai sword. It is so freaking cool. And of course, not to forget, the boss battles. No, but I don't know what kind of chip they're actually using because we didn't really tell the information. But yeah, with the intro, it already struggles. But let's get into the game itself. Gigawing, what a cool game this is. But let's see if we can actually play this. Oh, you can see that the frames go all places, so this is not a great thing. Oh! It struggles big time. So moving on to two-dimensional games to see how actually this plays, but so far it looks super pixelated. That's one thing for sure. So we're not expecting any great performance here. So it's hitting like 24 points, let's say 25 frames in the versus mode, and I think that's like the least problematic situation I need to emulate. Oh, a lot of glitching. Oh no, this is not getting any better. It really sucks. It's unplayable. With this horrible frame rate, I really go to shit my pants. This is awful. Moving into PlayStation 1, that is normally a system that don't have a lot of problems. They did configure the button not correctly, because we're not going to be using the cross we're just going to be using the circle button. You're going to be saying like when you're going to be looking at, let's say, the overall configuration of original control, so that's kind of weird. But yeah, so far when it comes to overall performance, this is what I'm expecting. So good, okay performance. at least like 60 frames per second. Minor dip is forgivable, but so far don't see weird things going on. Okay. Beep 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 bam 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 bam. Ooh, minor dip there, but it's like a minor. They did actually implement some N64 over here, but let's see in Cruising the USA, and let's see how it works, and let's try a couple of those games. Of course, Cruising USA, GoldenEye, and many other ones do have like a lot of problems of these, let's say, basic chipset. We couldn't really figure out what kind of chip, but what I mentioned is like the S905X3 would be one of the ones that we can actually find most of these devices. It glitched like crazy, and the overall performance, yeah, you can actually see when it comes to Cruising USA, it's just unplayable from the beginning. Let's go with some bug bumble. The controls seem to be configured correctly, but already from the start it's not going to be having great performance, but maybe in the game it's going to be better. That is something that happens. So N64 is just such a difficult system to actually emulate. And you know, that's what they're doing. They're always adding these things. It glitches like crazy. Let's see if we have like, okay, both of the L and 1 are mapped to that. But this is just a complete, absolutely horrible experience. Very strange lines, glitches, you name it. You know, N64 is absolutely a no-go. And of course you can deep dive into it to see if you can find a game that's actually playable, but this is not the way how you want to play. But you can see like throughout the game 40, 44 frames, 45, let's say like 45. So N64 is a problematic situation, but that doesn't say that every single system of that era is going to be, or before that's going to be horrible. No, I think it's just like an overall problem when it comes to the N64, but if you just want to play some old school Super NES, we can just play that without any problem whatsoever. And I think that's what we're going to be finding out throughout this video already. It's like a lot of these basic systems are going to be just running fine, in combination also with the PlayStation 1, so that is awesome. But how about the DS? So here we're going to be pressing the L2. You can actually see we can go into the big screen. We can switch fairly easy between both. The right joystick can be used for the touchscreen. Let's see, I can actually use the touchscreen. Okay, I need to press the right joystick. Let's go further. All right, press A for selecting. Ah, man. All right. And this way we can actually like mess around with this. We can actually put it in a certain position. You can just play like that. This is so weird actually. But you can just confirm, let's play the game. If you're not going to be needing both screens all the time, you can just actually just mess around and just get into this, let's say, screen. There is no frames per second counter. What I can actually do is press the left joystick, go into the configuration over here. Let's see, change options, show speed, if they mean like frames per second. Is that like frames per second? I think it is. So exit, say for all game. Oh, let's do this game. All right. Yeah, it doesn't really showcase a lot that we're going to be needing, but I can hear and see that it's not really struggling that much. But it's kind of cool that we can play some DS on here. And of course, let's mess around with it. Yeah, what that's kind of funny is if we're going to be, it looks so much more choppier like that. We're going to be playing like here, like this way, or like that. The unfortunate part is there's no way of getting into the system. Yeah, press like start. Crap! Loads up. No! I don't need to do it. I need to get into the emulator. I need to get into the emulator! And there were no pictures. Let's try that again. Because I wanted to mess around with, can we actually show the frames per second? And most importantly, can we do some other things? Because I did notice some minor stutters. But PlayStation Portable, man, absolutely. It's crazy that they added this to it, because we have seen the Dreamcast and all the other systems that are really difficult to emulate. And this is going to be the same shenanigans, or it's going to be an overall okay playable situation. So let me hear it very closely. I can mostly hear when it's going to be having problems. Yeah, that's clear. The PlayStation Portable is not going to be running perfectly. It does look really nice on the display. So when it comes to the overall, how this display looks, now it absolutely shines with such more like newer generation game. But yeah, like Dreamcast and many other systems that are really difficult to emulate, they shouldn't even add this, you know. So there are all kinds of different games, like Assassin's Creed, the same shenanigans. But it's quite unfortunate there is no mini games on here, because those games are actually going to be most of the time playable. So that's quite unfortunate. No round 2. Let's do round 1 again. Let's make a quick load, quick save. That works quite well. I can actually do some moves on this controller. That's absolutely a freaking miracle. But when it comes to the performance, you can see that it struggles. I tried mid different like kind of emulators, but nope, it didn't do anything. Let's make a save. This way we can just cheat fairly easy. Press select start and we go back to the main menu. But let's try another arcade game. What's going on with this? Let's see the overall performances now when it comes to a different game. Yeah, it struggles too. You can just hear that it's not like a Mortal Kombat problem, it's just an overall problem with the emulator. No idea why this is, because this should be playable. So when it comes to optimization, there's still a lot of work there. And that's one thing for sure. So somehow that has to do with the MAME emulator, that it has been configured correctly. That's the reason I just wanted to quickly check it out. So when it comes to the D-pad, I can get some moves out, but the overall configuration of the controls is absolutely horrible. Oh man. Wow. I finally managed to get something going on here. But how about the games itself and the systems? You can actually see there was all kinds of stuff going on. But what was kind of weird at first, when you're going to be pressing left and right, we're going to be having only a couple of systems, because it seems to be that we're just scrolling through different kinds of systems, but pressing up and down, then we're going to be seeing all kinds of different and new ones like N64, Game Boy Color, the Advance, and many other devices. So that's kind of weird when it comes to the overall menu configuration, which say like left and right, we can just actually go to every category. But no, this is completely different. We need to use left and right and up and down, or at least having a different kind of, let's say, system that we're going to be showing up. So this is really weird. I don't know how it's with you, but I love to see what's going on the inside. So let's open it up. And there's no screwdriver needed, because this is going to be some of those clicking, like click together situations. So let's see what's going on. Let's see if I can open it up very carefully. I removed all of the components at the side. Let's get this fire tool in. That's it. Yeah, see, I can lift it up a little bit so I get some room for my plier tool. There we go. No screws so far I have seen. Let's be very careful with it. Don't put too much force on it. It comes automatically, which you can just see over here. The only part that we're going to be doing is lifting it up here. You can also have like extra tools, but I'm too lazy to get those. Now let's see if we can just open it up like that. Yeah, that's it. So let's, oh frick, everything falls apart. Okay, let's be very gentle. Let's turn it around, let's flip it. All right, there we go. So the Wi-Fi antenna is actually on here. I can see myself. So the Wi-Fi antenna is over here. This is just, it's just actually going to be in there. But let's see, you can just lift it out. Looks like it's stuck somewhere. There's nothing much going on. I thought it was just falling out. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let's lift it out like that. But you need to be super careful, because you can see there's a ribbon cable. Oh man, I need to be really careful with this. So what you can actually see over here is for the touch controls. Let's see. You can just see that we don't have a lot of room there. I have no idea why this thing is stuck. I think it just clicked in. I managed to get this thing loose. Okay, so let's flip it. I was like very anxious with these freaking ribbon cables. It would not be the first time I was just ripping something up. So this is a very thick panel when it comes to that. Okay, so let's lift it there. So over here having the two speakers. Put some tape over there. But how about this? So we cannot really do anything with this because there's nothing going on. But of course I wanted to do a quick peek in the inside. Let's remove this one. Alright, there we go for the Wi-Fi. Did I remove all of the screws? Yes, I did. There we go. I must be very careful with this. But it's still stuck somewhere. Like I already thought, there was nothing much going on the other side. Not a lot of information. Some Wi-Fi details and everything. Connectors. There is a switch. I'm guessing this is going to be for programming the PCB itself. So it seems to be there's like normally in something with speaker that's possible. So I'm guessing this is going to be some universal, let's say overall PCB, but nope, nothing much going on over here. So that's absolutely a waste. So everything is underneath here, but you're going to be needing to actually like rip this thing apart. Not going to be doing it because I'm going to be destroying it for sure. But that's it. There's not a lot of information going on the inside. The only thing is that this screen is for 2025 produced, but that's it. Like on the PCB it doesn't state a lot. It says over here when it's produced 2024, but not a lot of information about the chipset or whatsoever. The frame itself was kind of cool and also surprised they have some really nice features to it. But the simple design and the overall great audio, must say that it's really surprising. If you just want to display some videos, yeah, this thing is absolutely capable of doing it, but also if you want to play some games. But if you want to switch, you need to remove the SD card. That is an unfortunate situation. There's not like a quick option to switch, but there's one thing of inevitable. And also, when it comes to the SD card, they should add themselves like SanDisk and a good brand, because these things, in my opinion, they get corrupted, so you should make a backup. The screen protector on this thing is really low quality, so it's scratched up really easy. So that's a little bit unfortunate situation. Controller-wise, it's a plug-and-play situation, but when you're going to be looking at the controller itself, I can tell you that these are really low quality, not like the worst one out there, but where we can still play a little bit of D-pad with finding games, the overall experience is not the best. So emulation performance, it's something we've seen before with game boxes. You know, the overall experience was quite okay. Let me know what you think of the idea. I think it's pretty cool. Thank you all for watching. Consider subscribing and it will be great to see you in the next video.